we looking injuries-wise to start with, Sean, please?
They still be missing. Barnsley's not ready yet, but making real good progress. So he's been back with the team this week and active with the team in sessions. We've just got to be a little bit careful because he's been out a long time. Robbie Brady's still struggling. It's going to be a while, that one. So we'll see touch and go for the season. We'll have to wait and see on that one. And Kevin Long just trying to settle down on Achilles, and it's not quite getting there. So 2 out of them 3 are still a bit to go, that's for sure. And then Barnes is getting closer and fitter and sharper through training. So we're pleased with that.
And Popey's still making good progress?
Yeah, Popey, sorry, he's been good. I suggested last week, we felt that he was over the kind of biggest hurdle of it, and he's come through training this week and he's looking strong again. So certainly if there's no reaction, he's trained fully with us today. If there's no reaction, then he's certainly back into consideration.
Big few weeks coming up for you in terms of some of the teams that you're playing and the league position at the moment. How do you assess where you sit at the moment?
Well, I assess there's a lot of good work been done since Game 7 when we had 2 points. So that's the first thing I have to be realistic about, because there's a lot of points been put on the board since then, a lot of good performances. I assess recently the performances have actually been decent. You know, we've dominated a couple of games, which we don't always do. But the main stat that you want to get right is the scoreline, and we haven't got that right. I thought we delivered a very good performance at Manchester United. They got a squeeze of luck, which can happen. It goes against you. You know, and we possibly at that stage looked like we'd, you know, found a way through the game to get at least a point, and it didn't happen. But the performance levels have been at least decent, I would say, over the last 3 games, and you could argue deserved a bit more, but you've got to make it happen rather than wait for it to happen.
And because of those levels of performance and that positivity that is there because of that, do you feel that there is a positive mood among the players?
Yeah, we don't really lack that. We've had enough challenges down our years here, myself, the staff and the players. We never really lacked positivity. We never really lacked a good feeling in the camp. It comes and goes with results, of course, or it's enhanced with winning, of course. But there's always been a sturdy-mindedness to the players and how they go about their day-to-day training and also the games. But no, there's never been a lack of that. We're never short of a good spirit, I don't think.
And for you personally, given those levels of performance, do you yourself feel confident that you'll be able to get the points that you need to make sure you stay in the Premier League?
I've been confident every season, but confidence doesn't win your games. You mean as confident as you like. You need a team that performs to win your games. So I've certainly, I don't think I lack confidence. Most people who know me, in myself or in the people around me. So we'll hopefully turn any confidences that we have as individuals and a collective into winning football.
And Wolves have started picking up a couple of results in recent weeks. What do you make of the job that Nuno is doing down there?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a different kind of challenge, a bigger challenge. You know, brought in some very, very good players and spent a lot on them, but then brought a lot of money in by selling them on. And you know, that can be a challenge. We've all been down that road. And this year's been a slightly more up and down one for them, but they're still a good outfit. We know that. Still got some very good individuals, despite losing a couple of very good individuals, of course. But no, they're overall, I think everyone at Wolves will be happy with the progress they've made over the last few years. And this season, like I say, a bit more challenging for them, but generally still in good shape and a good outfit.
The big topic this week has been the possible formation and then the capitulation, if you like, of the possibility of a European Super League. What have you made of events of this week?
Well, it happened. It came out after our game at Manchester United, and I didn't really offer too much about it, with good reason, because I had a strong feeling what was probably going to happen, and that was going to be a reaction from all, and certainly the fans. And I think eventually the fans have looked after football in a way, because they've gripped hold of the situation. They've come out with a strong voice against. I'd be interested to know what the 6 were thinking before and after. I'd be interested in that. I suppose it will come out at some point, but if they had a Zoom call between the 6, I wouldn't have minded being a fly on the wall listening to that one, that's for sure, after the event and before the event. Look, I think the balance of it is, I think it's found its way. Football often does, and the fans are powerful. I know for many years the media sometimes, or people around the media have suggested that fans would weaken because of the strength of media and the strength of finance, which is, don't get me wrong, it's a fair when the media does put a lot of finance into football. But it is, I think it's good for the game now and again, if there is a good to come out of it, when fans do have a voice and they collectively gather their thoughts and come together and say, no, we're not having that. And I think that's been a powerful thing on this occasion.
been calls in some quarters for there maybe to be changes to the way football is governed. Gary Neville's talked about it quite a lot, particularly recently. Do you think maybe it is time for changes for the way football clubs are run?
Well, I'm surprised Gary mentioned it because he's normally shy of an opinion, to be fair. But no, I think it's a fair point. I think our own chairman mentioned, about legislation, the idea of running football and how it's run and the power and where the power shifts. And obviously, Alan's come out of American sport. It's different over there. We know that. But he's got a fair view of it, I think. Look, I think football as a visual aspect, as a kind of glossy product, has been fantastic. Many advances in the game, both on and off the pitch. Some of the underbelly of it is still not right, I don't think, and maybe this is a sign of that at the sort of the real powerful level, which is literally trying to sort of take football into its own hands, or a clutch of clubs across Europe. Sorry. I think there's other things that could be tidied up in the game, and maybe fans have proven that there's certain things they're not happy with. Possibly they could affect that. I don't know. I think there's a balance to it, though. I think it's there is a lot of good in football, and there's a lot of good being done in football. But maybe there's some things that could still be shifted and still be dealt with better. And certainly the governance and the overall control may have to change, I think.
Well, moving on from that point, in his interview after the game, Leeds United's Patrick Bamford said that it's a shame that perhaps there hasn't been such an outrage and similar action to fight racism in football. Do you think he's got a fair point there?
Well, I think it's a world problem, isn't it? Racism. I don't think that's football's problem on its own. I think that's a world situation. So I think I understand his point, but I think it's a different level of situation. If you talk about a thing that's getting spoken about throughout different areas of life across the planet, this is a situation that was gripped very quickly, a very specific situation. But I understand the train of thought.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fraser. Hugh, PLP, Hugh Parasite, Hugh.
Hiya, Sean.
Hiya.
You mentioned about the fans kind of clubbing together and saving football, to paraphrase you. Was there a little bit of a wry smile? Because fans have become so tribal recently, and particularly with social media highlighting that. Is it a surprise that fans found this togetherness, this ability to fight as one against something that they didn't like?
No, because fans, look, everyone stands their ground, but amongst when I grew up, there was trouble on the terraces. That doesn't happen so much. It's friendly, or hopefully, it's more of a friendly fire situation. Where there's a bit of, to use an old-fashioned word, banter and a bit of, that kind of feel amongst supporters. But when it really hits, when it really comes on top, most supporters, come together. Most of them say, "Hang on, this is a way bigger situation than just us, fighting our little piece of football from our club point of view." And I think it's just reminded us of that, to be honest. I grew up in an era when fans sometimes were trouble, of course, but the famous Liverpool-Everton games when fans were all mixed and families were mixed and all that. Underneath some of the bits and bobs that go wrong in football with fans, there's lots of good stuff about fans, and they often come together when needed, and they certainly have shown a very strong show of fans across the clubs, or certainly across 14 clubs, and other clubs, of course. I think everyone. I've had messages from people and calls from people outside of the Premier League who are, sort of saying, "Look, we're not accepting that. That needs to change." I don't. By the way, it's quite interesting. I don't know whether they thought I could change it on my own, but anyway, they were still ringing me. But I think there is an underbelly of camaraderie amongst fans. They all support passionately their clubs, but now and again they all join together because they get, enough's enough. And on this occasion they have done, and it's made a big difference, quite obviously.
Talking about fans, their experience of a Premier League run-in is often different from a manager's experience, because fans do admit to watching the other teams involved in and around them, the rivals, and kind of having the schadenfreude and wishing them ill and all that sort of stuff. And managers have always said, "No, I don't worry about the other teams, I just think about my own." Given the way that the Premier League spread out because of the pandemic and the way that we're watching it on television, can you admit to being slightly different this time around? Are you actually watching the other teams in and around you and kind of hoping that things go your way?
It's not about admitting it. It's just there. It's a fact. Other teams do play football and other events occur. But the fact is that it's you have to control your own situation, or you attempt to control your own situation. And the best way of doing that is performing and wins and draws, obviously, getting points on the board. But you're obviously aware of other people. That's been the same for football for years. It's irrelevant whether it's on the media, excuse me, on the visual media. When I was a player and it wasn't so, the coverage wasn't as deep. You still had articles in newspapers and reports and everything. You're still keeping an eye on what's going on. But the fact remains, you can't rely on other people. You can't imagine people are doing you favours. It just doesn't work. You've got to take care of your own business. And we've always concentrated and focused on that. And that's what we continue to do.
And just finally from me, Wolves are in a position now, after being in a worse position earlier in the season, after stringing together a couple of good results. And what you guys haven't had so much of this time around is the consecutive wins that have helped Wolves do exactly what they have to be where they are now. So how vital perhaps over these last 6 games that you're able to do 2 in a row, maybe, because that's all that Newcastle have done, and they're in a much better position too.
It's just points on the board, no matter how they come round. At the end of every season, it's points on the board. You can look back, you can dissect it, you can pick the bones out of it. The Premier League's a very unforgiving place. You suggest now, 2 on a row that like it's an easy thing. It's not easy to win games in the Premier League, let alone 1, let alone back-to-back, and let alone 3 and 4 and 5. Some of the most powerful clubs you see in the Premier League struggle with that at times. So, our focus is on making sure that we get more points on the table. However many points it will be needed. You don't know until the end of the season. But our focus is clearly performing to get as many points on the table as we can.